Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining on time, a few minutes early even. We're going to give everyone 2 more minutes to join, and we will kick this off right at 11:02.
And while you're waiting, if you want to just chat us your bank account number and password, we'll be glad to keep those safe for you. Actually, we
Always
turned off
thinking,
the
Jeremy.
chat, so you can't do that. Yeah. And if you have any grandchildren, they may or may not have been in an accident and need you to give their credit card so we can fly them somewhere. Just setting the stage for what we're talking about today.
That's awesome.
Pretty upsetting one that's been played on a lot of people.
Oh, yeah.
I love all these emoticons.
Yep.
Look at you guys going. Keep them coming.
John,
Oh, yeah.
I found a USB stick in the parking lot this morning that said it had the winning lottery numbers, so I was quick to plug that into my laptop this morning as well.
Awesome.
You want me to keep going?
Share the wealth, Jeremy. Share the wealth.
Yeah,
No,
just roll.
warm up.
We're
Warm up
started.
the crowd to get them all in the right mood here.
Yeah, we started. We're up and rolling.
Wow, you guys are awake this morning. All right, as promised, 11:02. I just want to say good morning. Thank all of you for joining us. My name is Kristen Koenig. I'm a consultant over here at Harbor Networks. And I just want to take a couple minutes to note a few things before I introduce our presenters. I think some of you have seen we're unable to actually interact with our attendees. Your mics and cameras are off. But some of you have found at the top of your screen there is a smiley face. If everyone could possibly click on that and send us along an emoticon, let us know that you can hear us and see us and that you're entertained. There we go. Awesome. Thank you, guys. Feel free to send those along throughout the presentation. Just let us know what you're thinking. And also, right next to that smiley face, you're going to find a box with a question mark. Please use this to submit questions to our presenters. We'll review them and answer at the end if time permits. If not, we'll follow up with those of you who had questions. Also, at the end of the webinar, there's going to be a survey that pops up automatically on your screen. We would really appreciate your feedback. It's only a few questions just with regards to this webinar and future ones we have slated. And now that we have logistics out of the way, I just want to introduce our moderators. We have John Flory, CISO here at Harbor Networks, and Jeremy Vignaux, our Vice President of Technology at Harbor Networks.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, Kristen. Thanks for doing a great job, as always. You always get us kicked off and going in the right direction. So good morning. My name is John Flory, Chief Information Security Officer, Harbor Networks. I can't wait to talk to you this morning because this topic is so relevant right now. I'm going to introduce Jeremy and let him, I think he already gave his opening comments, but I'm going to let him give a few more.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm good enough. So I'll be here to help John to lighten the mood as we scare the bejesus out of you. So shoot those questions over. Thanks.
Awesome. So yeah, this topic is so huge because it's really affecting us. It's affecting us in our businesses. It's affecting us in our personal life, and it's changing. You know, COVID has absolutely changed the game. I just saw some numbers were released today for the first 6 months of this year, and this is about this particular stat was about consumers. And in the first 6 months of this year, they have lost 92% of what they've lost all of last year, right? Already. So it's going on and it's rampant. It's beyond phishing. We're going to talk about it, but social media is playing a big part. They, in the study for scammers, social media, Facebook, is up in the 80 and 90% range, and there's so many ads and things going on. So we're gonna talk about that. Our agenda is going to be talk to you about what's going on, give you some awareness, and then also talk about some ways we can go on offense or different ways we can prevent this from happening. So it's the biggest weapon that cyber criminals are using, right? It's called hacking people. You know, we don't need to, I used to tell people I've been an ethical hacker for almost 30 years. And a couple things have resonated with me. One is never not gotten in. Okay. So I'm talking power grid and attorney general. If we want to get in, we're going to get in. And we can go after your systems and your technology, or we can do the easier thing and go after your people. And there's so many ways we can find out who to go after, how to go after, and we're going to talk about all of that. So it's absolutely huge. I'm going to start with a video. And Jeremy and I want to start with this video. And really what it's about is counting balls. So, Kristen, let's see how awake people are this morning.
The monkey business.
And how good at counters we are,
Solution.
etc.
Count how many times the players wearing white pass the ball. The correct answer is 16 passes. Did you spot the gorilla? For people who haven't seen or heard about a video like this before, about half miss the gorilla. If you knew about the gorilla, you probably saw it, but did you notice the curtain changing color or the player on the black team leaving the game? Let's rewind and watch it again. Here comes the gorilla, and there goes a player, and the curtain is changing from red to gold. When you're looking for a gorilla, you often miss other unexpected events.
All right,
And
so
that's the monkey business illusion.
yeah, the monkey business illusion. And
I love that. Yeah, that's fun.
it's awesome. We do these live a lot of times, these presentations, right? Before all this last 200 days of nonsense, we do them live. And, I ask people, did you count? What's the count? And they'll say the numbers, and some will get it right and some won't get it right. But most people miss the gorilla. And it just goes to show you, it's more with less. It's times of uncertainty. We've got a lot going on. And a lot of times we miss the gorilla. So there are different types. We're going to get very technical right now for you. All right. So if you're ready, Jeremy loves the acronyms.
I know.
Yeah, exactly. So we're going to talk about.
It's almost like we made them up at a bar one night after a couple of drinks, because some of them get a little crazy here. But
some of them may have been. I mean,
it's true.
We don't know. Yeah. So we're going to talk about fishing, vishing, smishing. We're going to talk about baiting and quid pro quo, and then how third parties are being weaponized against us, how they're doing it, how we can combat it. And Jeremy's going to kick us off talking about fishing.
Yeah. So, I shouldn't say most people have been targets of a phishing attack, something where we're sending a message, and we're trying to hook somebody with something and fool them and sort of hoodwink them. So today, a lot of these attacks are delivered via email, where we're sent a message. The content looks real. It might be fake. And there are obviously some goals in play. A lot of the times they're looking to make sure that they've gotten a real person. A lot of times they're trying to fool you into logging into something so that you give them your password and things like this. So this is extremely common in email these days. It's also fairly common on websites, where you'll see little ads that will pop up that look relevant. You'll click the ad because it looks like something you want to follow, and you've been hooked. Now, whether or not they've gotten you to enter something, or they've wanted to see whether your computer was vulnerable to a particular attack so that they could do it by loading a website. All of these are predicated in the fact that they're trying to hook your attention to get you to do something, whether it's click or open or whatever that may be. So, I mean, the reason that you continue to get these is because they're successful. They get people to answer or to click, whatever that may be. And they're sort of, they're they're counting on the user's curiosity potentially, like, wow, I can't believe this is, or worry, oh, I can't believe that my credit card has expired and I need to re-enter those credentials on my Mass Speed Pass account so I don't get tickets or whatever. They're so adept at coming at you from all angles that you obviously need to keep an eye not only on the gorilla but on the balls and on the players and whatever. It's very, very difficult. There are some specific examples of phishing. One in cases is we call whaling. This is where we start combining a whole bunch of things like sending an email to your CFO of the company, pretending that you're the CEO, saying, hey, I need you to quickly write this check for a wire transfer, money, whatever. And they're sort of fooling you into being nervous about a request from your boss because it's CEO, and combining all of these things. So typically whaling involves executives in a company that they've pulled from your website because it says, who they are and things like that. So combining that, it might be a phone call. It might be an email. It might be a fax. It might be a package delivered. It could be someone standing at the front door saying that, oh, I'm here because the president told me to stop by and pick something up. I mean, there's just so many different ways of doing this. So just be cognizant of the fact that not necessarily to be suspect of everything, but always give it a second opinion potentially, bounce it off somebody. Hey, does this look right to you? Ask, if this is in your personal life, if somebody has asked you something, bounce it off your spouse to say, hey, does this look valid to you? Because two heads are always better than one as far as that concerned. So, so many different examples here. The goal a lot for the criminals here is to get your password, to get your credit card number, to get you to send money, and things like this. So there's obviously some things you can do. One I just mentioned, obviously, ask questions, be suspect. There are plenty of technological solutions around this as well. There are email filtering programs and services out there that will do this. There's also training you can do to personals and employees as well. You can also do things like stop using your work email for something that's not work related. Like don't log into Facebook with your email, your work email. So then it's less likely that they'd ever be able to use that against you to say, I'm calling about X, Y, or Z. And I think, without beating, you over the head with this, starting to think of a defensive posture and maybe even an offensive posture about the culture of approaching requests and emails is critical for you. And as we talk, more and more webinars, there are tools to help. There are filtering tools. There are technology tools to prevent you from clicking on things. But when it comes down to it, is that a lot of it's going to be personality training. It's going to be training and practicing and retraining. You're going to have to keep doing this. We at our firm, we continue to do a lot of training where I will secretly send out fake emails to people saying, here's a LinkedIn invitation. Can you join it? And I'll get people to click it or not click it and say, did you check to make sure that was really LinkedIn? Why didn't you just go to LinkedIn and look at your invites? Why did you respond to the email and all kinds of things like this? So there are ways to accomplish this, but it's an ongoing process, and you really need to keep people adept at being vigilant, but being smart about it, but not just be mean and not respond to everything. So we still need to operate a business. You can't be a customer service business and ignore emails. You have to read them, right? So there has to be a balance here. So just keep in mind that this could be all kinds of access. And we'll talk about some other ways that the criminals are trying to fool us outside of potentially clicking on web links and emails and things like that. But if it looks too good to be true, it probably is. And if it looks suspect, it probably is. And if somebody sends you an email with an invoice and you didn't order anything, it's probably wrong. So, just keep an eye out on things like that. And as John said, the other thing to remember is a lot of what we're talking about today with social engineering, we're trying to hack people. We're trying to hack their niceness or their, openness or whatever. This does affect both personal and business identities as well. So all the stuff we're talking about is relevant to your personal life as well, the personal life of your kids, the personal life of your parents, all those things. So keep that in mind as well.
Great, Jeremy. Right on. I'm just going to take one more second on this, just because phishing is still by far the most prevalent way they're getting us. Okay, phishing is by far still there. The percentage has gone down over the last 2 years just because of all the other ways they're coming after us now, but it's still by far the most prominent way. And out of office, a lot of people don't like me because I just tell them the truth. Don't use out of office. It's like I'm going on vacation and I'm going to tell everybody in my neighborhood I'm not here. Because when you put on your out of office, they're going to know that you're not there. And that's when they're going to start to do their damage. And that's when they're going to plant their attacks. And that's when they're going to get in there and seed themselves, etc. So I wanted to put that out there. When you're posting with all your clients and your partners, just be careful. And I understand we have to do business, but it gives them vectors. If they know who your clients are, it's going to be easier to phish you because they're going to find out who runs something in the clients by going to LinkedIn and then send it to you, and you might open it, right? So you just have to be careful. Your work credentials, work credentials are all over the place. People are password fatigued and they're sick of it. And they're just using their work credentials because they can't remember it anymore. And then these mailbox takeovers is what is the result from that. And those are the worst attacks, in my opinion, you could have. Is somebody's in your mailbox, but it's not you.
Yep.
Yeah,
Fooling your clients and partners and your everybody. So yeah.
No good. No good. Bad. Pay for performance managed services means I could pay $25 and give them 50 people on the dark web to hack for me, right? And then once they get somebody, I pay them $100. Literally pay for performance. I don't have to do anything. Upload the names that I want. Upload the companies I want. Culture's everything. We talked about it last webinar. People, process, technology with that C in front of it. CPPT. Culture, people, process, and technology. You have to make it mean something, because if not, they don't care, and we're going to talk about it. Kristen, play our video on vishing, which is one of my favorite topics.
To hack me with his team, but they're going to hack me using social engineering, which is essentially hacking without any code. They just use a phone and an internet connection.
We help people with human security issues by testing vulnerabilities for like a network test, but it's for the people network. We test those vulnerabilities, see where the holes are, and then help people learn so they can patch them.
Can we try some of this? Can we try some?
Yeah.
See if it works?
Yeah, we probably could have our star visher here make some phone calls as
Let's do it.
Sure. Do you want to do a sample vishing call?
What's vishing?
Vishing is voice solicitation, and basically what you do is you use the phone to extract information or data points that can be used in a later attack.
Let's do it.
Okay.
Who are you going to call?
Maybe I'll call your cell phone provider
Okay.
and see if I can get them to give me your email address.
I bet they're good. I bet they have my back. But yeah, go for it.
I'm going to spoof from your number, so it's going to look like it's calling from you.
Okay.
Hi, I'm so sorry. Can you hear me okay? My baby, I'm sorry. my husband's like, we're about to apply for a loan and we just had a baby and he's like, get this done by today. So I'm so sorry. I can't call you back. I'm trying to log into our account for uses information and I can't remember what email address we used to log the account. The baby's crying and can you help me? Awesome.
In just 30 seconds,
gmail.com?
Jessica gets my personal email address.
Now, if I needed to add our older daughter on our account so she could call in and make changes, how would I need to go about doing that? You would have to send me a secure PIN through a text message? Yeah, well, the thing is, I don't think I'll be able to receive a text message if I'm on the phone. Shh. Oh, I'm not on there either? So I thought when we got married, he added me to the account. Okay, my
Jessica uses my girlfriend's name and a fake social security number
5127.
to set up her own personal access to my account.
Wait, I'm sorry, so there's no password on my account right now? Can I set that up?
She even gets the support person to change my password.
Thank you so much for your help today.
So she just basically blocked me out of my own account.
I'll get her fed after this. All right, thank you.
Holy shit. So they just
I'll
gave you access to my entire cell phone account.
You're gonna have to go on and change your password now because it's Jess, my name.
And all it took was a crying baby and a phone call.
Yes.
I really thought that my cell phone company would protect me. I mean, like.
Okay, so
Awesome.
wow, right?
Love
It's
that one.
how easy is that? And social media gives people so much information, right? That these calls are not hard to make. In businesses, help desk is the biggest scam. You know, I used to tell you how I used to break in. We used to call and say we're calling from your help desk, right? And we have to change something. We have to do something. People, you're going to get people to give you their credentials. Your internet provider. We used to call people on the phone and say, "You got a bad line. I can't hear you." Then a few minutes later, from a different telephone number, we call them and basically say the same thing. Then a half hour later, we'd show up with a telephone company uniform on, and we'd say, "Hey, we're here with the telephone company. We understand you have a bad line. We need to get in the back and fix it." We get let in the back, right? So people need to know when these things are they're hit with these type of things, how to respond. What is your policy? What is your procedure when that type of thing happens? Always call back means don't give anybody any information. Call them back. And my advice, and I'm hyper paranoid. Okay, I admit it. I've seen a lot, but don't get the number from them. Hang up. Find out the telephone number. We just had an incident where somebody was breached and the FBI was calling us and they're asking us all this information, and it started making me very paranoid. And I was like, how do we know this is the FBI? And the FBI said, you know what? I'm in the Boston office, downtown. Look up the number, call me back, ask for my name. That's
Was it
the best.
Agent Scully or Mulder?
I don't remember. He was a great guy, although they don't really do much anymore. They basically say it's a business decision and refer to your incident response plan, and they take the information.
Yeah. But
This
you
is
called
not-
back. And is this why no one's read the gas meter in your house in 10 years?
Yeah,
Won't let 'em do
exactly.
it? Okay.
Right. Okay, so that's
These-
vishing.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
these voice, go back to that one for 1 second. I just want to say these ones are the ones that are being used a lot in personal attacks too. I made the joke early on about calling and saying that your grandson was in an accident. These are vile, awful, and very emotional calls sometimes that you can get from people, and they know exactly what they're doing, and they can move on a dime. So these are tougher ones because now it's a little bit more personal because you're talking to somebody versus ignoring an email that looks suspicious. Now somebody's actually pressuring you on the phone. So these are ones that need training as well, because as many of us do, we're running companies. We can't necessarily be rude to everybody, but we need to be suspicious. And you say, I'm sorry. And what John did, he was probably apologetic to the FBI agent who was speaking to and saying, I need to verify this. So I'm going to have to call back, and don't let them tell you the phone number. Say, where do I get the phone number? Can I go to a website or can I go to the yellow pages or whatever and do that? Because, they know about callbacks too. And so they might say, oh, just call back the number on the caller ID, but they've forged that as well. So just be, very vigilant about all of this as well. So go ahead and on to the next one then.
Yeah, 100%. Okay, so we're not going to take long on this, but smishing, SMS, texting. Hey, Best Buy just text me and says I want a new TV, and I just bought something from Best Buy last week, but you know what? It was on Facebook. Somebody saw that, so they send you something from Best Buy. It's just don't click on any text or anything that you don't know where it's from. It's just another avenue they're using. So I want to talk about this. So I told you how ethical hacker for a lot of years. I'm going to talk about breaking into a university data center. So this is a large university, and they built a data center because 60 other colleges access this data center for services like banner and other services. It was centralized. So they took a long time and had a huge budget, and they built this data center, and they were like, John, you can't get in here. Okay. We've got armed guards and lasers and, all this. So gave it to two of our guys, right? And they went there, and what they did is they didn't go to the data center. They went to the library on campus, and they had found out who the vendor was for the copier, and they said they just simply had to check the toner level on the copier. Got let in, and they just took a couple pieces of letterhead, and they left. That's all they did. They went to the car, pulled up LinkedIn, found out the guy that ran the data center, the address, his picture. Okay. So next couple days, they got up very early and went in front of the data center and waited. Saw when the guy came, saw when the guy left, right? Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and the guy left at 3:30 in the afternoon every day. Thursday at 4:15, they went to the data center, right, with a note on their letterhead from the contact saying that there's an event on campus tonight and we need a data run. Please give them access to the data center. And we got let right in, right? We filmed the whole thing. Hey, here's your backups. Here you go. Here you go. I'm touching that. See that type of thing. So it's scary. So you really have to train your people, verify, and document, because all the best controls in the world did not even have any effect on it at all. Culture, people, process, technology. And then
there's no cute name for what this example was. This was sort of just social engineering at its best. I mean, they fooled people by impersonating somebody. It was layered with a couple of different approaches: research, finding letterhead to prove that, finding the person's name, making sure they knew when he was gone for the day. I mean, this is pretty. But if you're a target, too. I also wanted to mention something about smishing. SMS, technically not a lot of people, public people know your cell phone number to send you text messages. And there are obviously some new business services that allow you to text enable your office number as well. Many of you may have started to receive text messages during the election cycle for donations being solicited. And that's a perfect example of somebody getting you to click on something because they sent you a text message. So just be cognizant of that. Everything is suspect. You, in general, should assume that if you ever receive an unsolicited text message, that is probably not correct, because those are not published. No one can get a list of your cell phone numbers unless they've gotten them via nefarious methods. So just be suspect on smishing as well. Not a fan of that term, but maybe we'll change that to mishing for MMS or something next time.
All right, and I got to be straight with you. They've got your cell number. Here's the problem. Nothing is free, and I think it's on something, and I'll skip it when I go to the next slide. But these applications we're using, we don't have.
Wait till you get to that slide, John, before you bring that up.
Yeah, but we don't have a privacy regulate. We don't have a privacy reg in the U.S. like they do in Europe. Okay, we don't have that. So when we're accepting the terms for these applications, they're telling you, "I'm going to take all your stuff," and we're just saying, "I want the free app."
Yep, I want to play Crush, and I don't care about whether you pick my cell phone number.
Yeah, man.
Way. That's great.
Because if you stop and you read it, it's going to say they're selling your data. That's it. The buying and selling of data is the biggest thing going. That's why when we use our work credentials and we open up an account at some retail store, the fine print says they're selling your information. And that's your work information, right? Or your personal information. Both very, very bad. Baiting is something I'm going to let Jeremy talk about. I kind of alluded to it earlier.
Yeah, you can join in. USB flash drives. Let me see if I've got one here I can pull out really quick. Yeah, a flash drive, right? We got our USB flash drives. Everybody and their brother is using these. They're storing photos on them. In the business world, they're handed out with marketing materials and testimonials and whatever that may be. They are an exceptional vector for introducing malware, viruses, and takeovers. And so sadly, as useful as they are, when they are handed out at trade shows, you should be suspect that there's something on them. And maybe you throw them away, or maybe you don't use them on a work computer. I made a joke early on when we were waiting to join here about finding a USB in the parking lot. People really do that. They will throw USB sticks in the parking lot, or they will put an envelope in the elevator that says employee compensation presentation 2020 and put a USB stick in it, and you put it in, and there's a PDF on there and it has people's salaries on it. And you're like, oh, great. But you didn't realize that your computer had a vulnerability you didn't know about. It uploaded something automatically. I mean, this is very sort of, TV show thriller stuff, but this is technically possible and something you should be suspect to. And if I'm going to make you a little bit more upset as well, not only are we going to talk about USB sticks, but we're going to talk about free cables, charging cables you might have gotten, because you can embed stuff into charging cables. It's really sad that we have devolved it to that too. But if it's free, you should question it, because the world does not really work that way. And certainly now that technology is so ubiquitous in all of our personal and professional lives, the opportunities are everywhere. And maybe you can give some more examples of no free lunch. I think you were starting to talk about free apps in the App Store and talk about that, right? Nothing is really free. Candy Crush isn't really free. They're getting something.
And it comes down to, we don't have a privacy standard in the U.S. California has started one, right? But it's so fragmented. It's not in any kind of enforceable manner right now, at least so far. And it's fragmented. I think I mentioned this in the last webinar. There's several class action lawsuits in Chicago going on right now for people appearing in Facebook photos that don't have Facebook. So all this is going on. The bottom line is this: before you click, because especially now, because we're combining our work and our home and our networks and our actual equipment, right? If it's going to be free, please look at the terms, because you might not like the term that you're about to accept. Okay, it's as simple as that. So third parties. Basically, third parties are now being used as a vector against us. I tell my clients, why have your janitor come in? And this is just an example. There's so many of them. We're going to talk about a couple of them, but why have your janitor come in when no one's there? Please have your janitor come in during the day, unless it's so disruptive or your business can't allow it or you can't work around it. It just eliminates your risk so much if you do these type of things. I'm going to tell you a quick break-in at the power grid. Okay, so we were at, I'm not going to say even what state it was in, but we got a gig to break in to the power plant, right? It was the power authority of the state.
Unnamed state, right?
Not naming the state. So it was shocking how easy it was. And there were so many different ways, but this is one way we got in socially, is we waited and we staked it out basically and saw who the janitorial company was. So they had vans and they had name on the van and all that. So they came at 6 o'clock at night, right? And they usually left around 10. So what we did was knocked off the badge and showed up at noon, not at 6 o'clock, and said, we are an inspector at the janitorial company, and we have to make sure our people are following protocol as per the contract and need to be let through. And we got let in, right, to the power authority. And there was a lot of other ways, but my point here is, who are your third parties? What information do they access? How important is that information? And do we have them categorized? Because we absolutely need to do that, because it's so dangerous, and I'm including cloud in this. We have to categorize them and then understand what we need to require from them to make sure our information is safe. Because if we collect the information, it's ours. We're on the hook. I don't care if you put in a cave, a cloud, anywhere you want. If you collect the information, you're responsible for that information until deletion. So be very careful who has access, right, and where you're putting it. And those things are crucial right now. Jeremy, I don't know if you want to add to that.
Yeah, I mean, I would say an easy example of this is deliveries. I think that many companies, they have traditionally the same delivery staff who comes in from the carriers, whether it's Federal Express or UPS or the U.S. Post Office and so forth like that. And front office staff tends to recognize these people and say hi, maybe have a relationship. If you see someone coming in a UPS uniform that you don't recognize, say hi. You new? You covering? See if they know the name of the regular person or whatever, because this is an example of keeping track of that. Now, you're being a little suspicious, but to that person who's probably not nefarious, they're now happy because you've now said hi to them and not ignored them as a worker or whatever. So you've actually killed two birds with one stone there. You've checked and you made somebody feel better because you're sort of chipping away at that, faceless, nameless, worker in the background thing. You're keeping an eye on things. The good old days of knowing everybody, there's some benefits to that. If you know who these people are, who are coming into your office, who are dropping things off, who are showing up at the back, that's good for everybody as well. I think that all these things, examples we're giving you about people who are social engineering, trying to hack the people in your firm, they can do that to your partners as well, or they could use them against you in this example of, having a janitorial supervisor come in and fool you there too. Again, we're trying to balance between being nice, but being vigilant at the same time. And there are ways to do it. Yeah.
I'm laughing a little bit because you said UPS. So we tried to FedEx a guy once. All right. We found out where the mail went, how that went, when it got there, when people, and so we were like, that's how we get in.
We're gonna drop a box off on the loading dock, and
FedEx caught it. We didn't get it through, but that's great that you mentioned that.
Oh, this is a scary story. Yeah. So this is
it's my favorite. This is my favorite. So social engineering leads to digital murder. All right. So this is a current case. So, all right. Let me set the stage for you. First, I'll set the stage. If a death certificate is produced on you, it trumps any other form of identification. I don't care what you pull. Okay. If there's a death certificate, you can pull your license, you're dead. That's it. So these criminals and these crooks have figured out that with the right license and a physical address, they can produce death certificates on people. All right. And, you have to be careful. You have to do it the right way. If an autopsy is triggered, that could screw it all up and stuff like that. Right. But this is happening. So I'm involved with something where it's a federal case and it's a federal witness. And this is straight up. Your Honor, I'd like to call to the stand Johnny Flory, defense attorney. Your Honor, I have an objection. John Flory is dead, and here's his death certificate. Okay, so this is something where making that person alive again is a big deal. And if you think about the applications for digital murder for you insurers out there, or say I want to get out of here, I'm done, I got a lot of problems, etc. Digital murder is a big problem, and it's just an example of where my only point in this is where we're at.
Mm-hmm. And there's an example going on right now, rife in Massachusetts, which is sort of a half step to murder. Criminals are filing unemployment claims against people and collecting their unemployment cards or checks or whatever that may be. And then you sort of have to dig your way out of the fact that, no, I'm not unemployed. I still actually have a job. And whoever you sent that money to, it wasn't me. And, this is similar to the folks who are filing tax returns on your benefit and getting a refund. And then you go to file your tax and they say, we've already filed the tax return and you're in trouble. So there are obviously shades of gray leading, of course, to the final and nail in the coffin of the digital murder, sort of getting the death certificate. But these are things, again, that you need to be aware of, and whether or not they're doing them because you've been lax in your security and you've used your credentials, or you didn't vigorously protect your identity with your social security numbers and so forth. But these can be expensive and painful to dig your way out of too. And just watch out for these too. That's got to be a mob case you're working on too, right? I mean, it's
Um,
like a TV show mob case.
I don't know, but if they filed a tax return in my name with a refund, it would trigger an immediate audit. So I'm not worried.
Yes, and then you're suffering through that.
All right. Okay. So we've talked about all this, and I'll probably pop a couple more things off here that are scary, but let's talk about some of the stuff that we can do, right? Some of the defense/offense that we can apply to protect ourselves. Jeremy, I don't know if you want to take a first couple boxes, go top row, or we'll go, yeah.
Yeah, I want to talk about training a little bit. I mentioned before is that, many companies actually have a recurring training program. Oftentimes they're using services to do this and so forth, or they're doing it internally. And this is not, the office, sitting everybody in a room and lecturing them about stuff. This is active training. This is sending people fake phishing attempts, catching them, talking with them, not just hitting them on the wrist, but saying, okay, here's what you did wrong. Here you need to go through this class and watch, a 5-minute video with examples to get you to start thinking outside the box. And these are not one-time training events. These are recurring. You let people string out as long until they start getting lazy again, and you get them again. And so training programs, again, around all of this, phishing, vishing, smishing, physical intrusion to tests and so forth like this, it's an ongoing thing. So coming up with a plan and forcing people to follow through that plan and reporting, making it part of the employee handbook, making it part of the employee review, these are critical path things because the risk is high. I mean, you don't want to be the employee responsible for putting your company out of business and losing a job. So that testing is not just IT testing computers. It's sending somebody in a Halloween mask on Halloween to see whether or not your receptionist will let them in, saying, oh, I just want to scare somebody in the back, let me through. It's like, no, you can't. You have to show me who you are, and this has to be good, right? There's so many examples of this. And then creating that culture of security, this is the example where, I called my parents and my in-laws who are in their 80s, and I said, people are trying to fool you. Don't be embarrassed. Ask somebody about this. Changing that culture so that even people who are retired, even kids, you have to say, you need to think securely. You need to think outside the box. You need to question. This is the training we give our kids and say, don't help somebody find a puppy if you don't know who they are, right? We have to do that, sadly enough, even for our parents and our coworkers as well. We have to teach them to question and verify, and be careful about that. So I can't say enough about training. I would suggest that there are training programs and there are training services that make this much easier, and they're much more adept than you just sort of winging it. But, if you have the wherewithal to try it, that's great. But no, there are some very formal services and programs that will do this, and they'll do it in a very professional way and give you reporting and follow up and things like that. So don't be afraid to use some of those services.
Yeah, that's awesome, Jeremy. And what's really good is you can get certificates that you've put them through the training, and now you're defensible, right? So you're doing the correct actions, and you have the documentation for if something does happen. And it probably will, at least from an incident perspective, right?
Yeah, that's a really good point, John. So some of our business partners who have cybersecurity insurance policy where they will pay, those cyber insurance policy givers, so to speak, the insurance firms, will ask for proof that you are training your staff, and will potentially ask after an event to prove that those people have actually gone through that training. And you can't just say you did it. People actually have to have a record that they did it. So some of this has to be verifiable as well, so that you could potentially be protected against a lawsuit or a regulatory suit, or potentially trying to claim to put a claim in for damages.
No doubt. And it gets down to my box that says document, right? That surrounds all of this. And training is a great way to do due diligence and document it. In other words, here's the name of the game. Let's find our risk. Let's baseline and document that baseline. Let's reduce it and document it and then repeat. These are the practices that we have to do, right? And so with phishing and training, do a phishing on your organization and say 100 people click, document it, then do a training on phishing, then phish them again. And guess what? People are still going to click, but it's going to be 36 instead of 100. So here's your risk. Here's what you did about it. This is why a security program is really important, because security is a verb. So I don't like projects in security. I don't, it's not a snapshot in time. We need to do different exercises, but understand that a test today doesn't mean you're safe tomorrow. So the documentation and the baselining of risk and reduction of it in a documented fashion is going to go a long way. So policies and procedures reviewed at least annually, or if there's a major change. That's the foundation. Tools get beat. Tools get beat. 0-day threats means the tool has never seen it. Your firewall has never seen this 0-day threat that comes out every day. People trust software. Oh, these software vendors drive me crazy. They'll go in there, oh, you drop by my software and you're not going to get ransomware. Oh, yeah? That's just not true, because they don't know all the threats that are coming onto them. So you have to have that foundation in policy. And then once we understand from a regulatory, from a business, etc., perspective, we build the foundation, we layer the tools, and we watch the tools, right? And monitor.
Yep, yeah. A lot of these objects are sort of themes that run through our presentations here. We talked about monitoring last time, about having somebody, it's one thing to have a tool, but it's another thing to have somebody actually watching to make sure that there aren't alarms. If you've got 2 employees who constantly click on bad links, yes, it's great that they're being caught by your software, but there's eventually going to be a 0-day exploit that employee is going to click on. So you need to know that you have problematic employees that need to be trained more, or potentially you need to know that your policy has some gaps you haven't thought of. So therein having somebody review your policies, an outside consultant, to say, what do you actually have in place? Is that good enough? It's likely you haven't thought of another vector that it may be new or you think isn't relevant to your business or something akin to that.
Yeah,
us talking about, I think on our last, we talked about having a response plan, an incident response plan. Again, planning. You don't want to have to be thinking about what to do. You want to execute what you've already figured out what's going to do too. And all of these, sort of fall out of, the standard process, and creating that process and culture to handle these things. We're just giving you more examples of more inputs, in this case, phishing and social engineering attacks in general, and so forth.
Yeah. If you're John Flory, you're putting together a security program, okay, we've got that training component. 7 by 24 by 365, I call it eyes on glass. Monitoring is so important, because we talked about it in the last one. The attacks are changing. Now they're getting in and stealing our data first. And once they got all our data, then they encrypt us and do all this thing, and we get alerted, right? So it's a whole different ballgame. So if you have monitoring, when someone gets in, and there's going to be incidents, people are going to get in, we could see it, we can knock it, we could shut it down before they steal our data. Because when they have your data and you're sitting on the other side trying to negotiate a ransom or whatever else, and they have all of your information, they say they're going to expose it to everybody, it's a whole different ballgame. Monitoring's huge. Policy is their start to doing it, right? I think we should go to some questions, because it is 11:50.
I do. I think we had some folks enter some things in here. You want me to toss a couple out for you, John, here, so we can see?
Yeah, sure.
One of the things that is a struggle is to not scare people, but one of the questions that somebody entered in here is there a way to stress the importance to the employees without being sort of the boss telling them that way? What's kind of a thought to teach the employees how important this social engineering vigilance is in training?
Yeah, this is what I recommend. Make it personal to them. What we will offer everyone on this webinar is, and we offer to all our customers, is a free dark web scan. So something I would do that just came to my mind, something I thought of, I would do a dark web scan, and they're going to be on there. Their credentials are somewhere, their passwords are somewhere. Sit down and have a talk with them and just tell them what's going on and make it real to them. From your personal life, you better change your passwords, because these scans will even show Facebook and all this other where their passwords are exposed. I would make it real to them, because if it's not real to them, they don't care. I mean, you're 100% right. And in your policy, it's got to say, protecting data is part of your job. I don't care what your job is. It's got to be in their job description, and it's got to be up to and including termination. And you don't want to be mean, and you don't want to be scary, but it's the biggest risk to your business. So you do have to take it seriously. I don't know if you want to add to that, Jeremy.
No, but I was gonna sort of turn a comment into a question here, and I'll say, is there a way to make it easier for employees to get an answer to, is this good or bad? And one of our participants said that they actually use an email address that essentially their users can forward suspect messages to,
Right.
and say, hey, is this spam? Is this bad or not? And they roll that through their help desk to get an answer back to the person. So they made it super easy for someone to say, how do I check, and so forth. And that's similar to asking somebody else's opinion as well. Another question that came in, unless you have a comment about that.
No, it's awesome. The only thing I'm going to say, and I repeat myself sometimes from the last webinar, but from a fraud perspective, people reporting on fraud is still the biggest way we're detecting it. With all the detection we have, over 60% is see something, say something. So have a way, along with that, a suspect email. If somebody sees something that looks out of whack, have an anonymous way for them to report it. It can really help you.
Exactly. Another question here, and I might ask you to sort of elaborate and define a little bit, is a question about who they can trust regarding dark web scans, and maybe define a dark web scan, and then sort of talk about how to trust the data that might come from one of those, and who you should trust on that.
Okay, yeah, so it's great. So from a dark web perspective, what a dark web scan is going to do for you is it's going to tell you where your domain credentials are on the dark web. So when there's a breach or when there's a buying and selling of information, it's available on the dark web. So there's services out there. SpyCloud is the one that I recommend, because that's who we use, and the federal government and police agencies, etc., use them. But what it will do is it'll show you the information that's available on the dark web. So I would say how I would trust it was, see, is that your credentials? Is that your password? It's going to show you what appears out there. So you're going to be able to know. All they're doing is they're scanning the dark web, finding out where your domain credentials are and where your passwords are exposed. And then they're going to report on that. And it's going to say this password is in clear text, which means anyone can just read it, or this password is encrypted, or this password is shaded or shadowed, so you see pieces of it, etc. But from a trust, it's just information. They don't do anything to you. They just are letting you know what's available out there for anybody to buy.
Another question earlier on came from someone who asked, has either the tactics or the volume of this changed because of the pandemic? Or is it really just the same as it's always been?
No, it's the same. Like I said before, the first 6 months of 2020 for losses, financial losses, are almost as much as all of 2019. In the first 6 months, it's become rampant. And we talked about it before. First of all, our risk has changed because now we've lost control because we're remote workers using their networks and their personal devices. All this other kids are using their computer. And I just had somebody where their kid clicked on an email that said how third graders can have fun in the pandemic, and it affected the whole work network. So it's crazy what's going on. So we're losing some control, and people are desperate. In 2008, the last financial crisis, fraud skyrocketed. So yeah, I expect it. It's going up.
I mean, another example, a million years ago when I was in college, these vans used to drive around campus, and the back doors would open, and a guy would say, psst, psst, you want to buy some great speakers or whatever. Imagine today you're surfing the web, the new version of that, and you're desperately trying to find a webcam for your kid so they can join remote schooling, and you find this ad that comes right up on Google that says, webcam, $39, full HD, whatever. And it's not made by a company you've ever heard from, and who knows where it's coming from. Well, guess how that webcam plugs into your computer? It's a USB device, and maybe or maybe not, it includes some bad stuff on there. So think about how we've sort of come a long way from the stolen goods van driving around the yard to someone selling you something that you need because of the pandemic, because your kid's not in school, and it's a vector for that as well. So that's some crazy stuff going on there too.
You're 100% right. From romance to get rich schemes to feel good schemes, etc. And these ads on Facebook and Instagram are a real big problem. Don't click on them.
Yes, depressing. We're coming up to the end here, but I this is a good question. Maybe not to end on, but to if you had to do one thing to protect yourself from social engineering, what would you suggest? And maybe I'll come up with one after you do.
My one thing is TMI, too much information. I would let me go on just a half a minute ramp. Don't put your mailbox flag up. Okay, because they don't need to break into your house. They're just going to they can just take all your information out of the mailbox. Go mail your stuff, right? If from a credit card perspective online, use one credit card and monitor it. And never use debit, use credit, right? Because when you use credit, you're going to be able to fight about their money, not your money, and you're going to get it back.
You're veering off course here, where I'm really wanting to social engineering tax, not tax in general. Just
social engineering tax. The one thing I would do would be have a training program with buy-in. I always want 7x24 monitoring for when somebody screws up, because somebody will. But have a training program, have a security program. Really, is my advice on that. And it's a little holistic. And call me or email me, and I can get into it a little bit more, and I'll let you add to it.
Yeah. So if I had to pick one thing for social engineering attacks and sort of preventing me from being subject, I would find someone to be able to ask a second opinion.
Great.
And not be embarrassed about asking it, because if you spit back out the thing that is suspect, even just the fact that you're telling somebody, it may become clear to you that this doesn't sound right. But at the very least, if there's someone or some party that you can ask a second opinion, whether that's sending an email, is it spam, whether it's the receptionist feeling no shame whatsoever if he has to ask his boss, should I let this person in? That's gonna combat most of the vectors at that point, because you're going to have two heads thinking about it, and most things are going to become clear. Most companies have had attempts. Many of them have been caught only because there's more than one person looking at it. So again, number one is ask a second opinion. So that's where I was telling my parents, if one of you gets a question or ask the other one about it. Don't just guess on yourself, because you're probably going to be wrong and be duped. So that would be my number one. So we're
yeah.
Any last thoughts here before we let people go? And obviously we'll remind them that as soon as we stop this conference, automatically will pop up a very quick survey, which is great for you, great for us, very short, very easy. You don't even need to go anywhere. It's going to pop up automatically. It would be great if you could answer that too. And maybe, just encourage people to stay vigilant, but stay nice, ask for help, and attend every one of our webinars, because we've got more stuff to tell you in the future.
Yeah, I just want to end that the next webinar, I believe, is a CIO roundtable. So that'll be really awesome. All right, so you'll hear about it soon. Thanks a lot. Stay safe. Stay vigilant. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.